Hey vinyl community, Brian again, Gibson A9 on YouTube, and I am back again after kind of a long break, here to do another installment in my video series of my Prog vinyl collection. So we've gone through most of the collection already. We are on the Ys. So with no further ado, actually, so the Ys are basically Yes. Yes is my favorite prog band, probably what I consider the #1 prog band of all time. And I am proud to say today we're going to go over my Yes collection. I'm kind of freaky when it comes to collecting Yes. Anything Yes, it's different than what I have. If it's a foreign pressing or anything, I pick it up, but I don't really have all that much. Out of the ordinary studio releases, American pressing. So anyway, looking forward to it. We'll go over what I've got, and we'll probably split Yes up into 2 videos. So we'll do the first half of Yes today, second half tomorrow, and that'll probably about finish up my Prog series. So this shirt's kind of funny. I found it in a Goodwill store. It's got to be old. It's pretty tiny. It's kind of tight and all, but it's got to be old. So it's just got a great big logo on it. So Roger Dean, props to Roger Dean. So anyway, let's get started. So before diving in, I will have to say that I discovered Yes back in high school. Asia came out in 1982. The band Asia with their first release with the dragon on the cover, that Roger Dean cover, and I loved that music, and studying who these guys were got me into Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Yes and some of the King Crimson, some of those old bands. So but of all those bands, to me the best of the bunch were Yes. And why is that? What is it I like about Yes? Well, to me they have everything that I think makes the prog genre what it is. Virtuoso instrumental playing. So Steve Howe, an amazing guitarist. Chris Squire kind of wrote the book on playing hard driving bass. Rick Wakeman on keyboards for kind of the classic lineup. Bill Bruford and Alan White on drums. But it's not just the instrument. It's and of course John Anderson on vocals until recently anyway. But I will have to say that the compositions, the music that they wrote, the vocal harmonies, the transitions between hard driving and soft passages, the cryptic lyrics that John Anderson wrote. There's so many things that they did well. The odd time signatures, 7/8 and 11/12 and all these bizarre time signatures. They kind of wrote the book on that stuff, and very interesting band, very different work that they put out. Their early first 2 albums sound a lot different than the coming ones. So anyway, let's get into it, shall we? So the debut album from Yes, 1969, entitled Yes. So there's all the guys when they were young bucks. There's John Anderson, Chris Squire, Tony Kaye on keyboards, Bill Bruford, and Peter Banks on guitar. And Peter Banks didn't last too long in Yes until he was replaced by Steve Howe. But this is the original Atlantic pressing, pretty good condition copy here from 1969. And actually the original ones will have the lyric sheet in it, so I'll show that as well. Original lyric sheet. Kind of cool to have as well. So if you're looking for a copy of that one, make sure it's got the lyric sheet in it. Second album, and in England, this first album was just a black album with this logo on the front cover, and that's hard to find. I don't have that. Wish I did. Second album in a G-rated version. You guys will laugh at this one. Time and a Word by Yes. This is the British cover. This is a copy of that. There's the original Yes logo, the pre-Roger Dean logo. Again, same lineup of guys. These first couple albums, they were doing covers of Beatles songs and covers of music that was out and about at the time. This one they actually used had an orchestra play along with it, but you could hear that they had their roots in older 60s music, but that they were doing something different with it. They had a hard driving edge to it, and Chris Squire's bass on these first couple albums is what I call fully formed. It's just out of the box. He just sounds amazing. It's not like, I mean, he did get better over time, of course, but the signature Chris Squire sound is just there. And also the Yes vocal harmonies that are so incredible. Squire and Anderson were just, they had it going on even on these first couple albums. So such incredible songs here. The song Then I love, Sweet Dreams, Clear Days is beautiful, and Time in a Word is, these songs are just early classics. So those first two albums I would put together. And by the way, sorry, here's the American cover for Time in a Word on Atlantic. Now ironically, here's the album cover was published with Steve Howe on the cover. He did not play on this album, but he had already at that point replaced Peter Banks rather. So kind of an odd thing for him being on the cover there. And on the back, even on the back it's got Peter Banks, but on the front cover it's got Steve standing in, so that's kind of an oddity there. The guy even dated his copy here, 8/27/73. Although that's a 1970 album, so maybe he bought it a few years later. But so those first two albums came along, and then the one that many of you have heard songs off of, the Yes album from 1971. This is just an absolute classic, getting more into what they would consider the classic Yes sound. So the Yes album, you know, songs like Yours Is No Disgrace, Starship Trooper, being played the organ by Tony Kaye still, but Steve Howe had joined the band, and his guitar playing on instrumental The Clap, but I've Seen All Good People, Perpetual Change. So just an amazingly classic album here. Good place for new Yes listeners to start. Some really good melodies, some good sing-along stuff here, but some amazing instrumental work as well. That's a really cool album cover. And incidentally, I think Tony Kaye, right here, yeah, he had broken his leg somehow right before taking this shot. So there's a picture of his foot in the cast there. But the Yes album from 1971, just a classic. And I'm going to go ahead on all these Yes albums and show you the gatefold. If they're gatefold, I'll show you the inside, because especially with the Roger Dean phase. This was pre-Roger Dean, but this is kind of some photographic work showing the guys in the band playing. So that's probably what I would consider the first of their classic albums, the classic Yes sound. They were still developing it at this point. They had added Steve Howe to replace Peter Banks, and the next upgrade would be to Tony Kaye went away. Tony Kaye was a big organ player, Hammond organ, but really didn't get too much into the synthesizers as his replacement Rick Wakeman would. So the fourth album from Yes is what I would consider the beginning of their just prog classic phase. They really figured out what they were doing at this point. Yes, Fragile, and this is a really minty copy of Fragile, original pressing copy of this. And the first album where Roger Dean came along and did the artwork. So this album here is, you know, showing the fragile planet, and it's exploding. You can't really see it, but there it is on the back, exploding, and the civilization is going off in this Morglade glider, or whatever you want to call it, a kind of a fish-looking bird-type ship off into outer space. But not only is the artwork incredible, but the music on this album is just amazing. Inner sleeve. There's the. And this is really before Roger Dean had figured out the classic Yes logo. So this is kind of the earlier Fragile logo. the songs on here, Roundabout, everybody's heard Roundabout, probably the most played Yes song on classic rock radio. South Side of the Sky, Long Distance Runaround, Heart of the Sunrise, and each of the guys did a little ditty on here. So Cans and Brahms was a Rick Wakeman piece. We Have Heaven is a kind of a tape-looped track from John Anderson. 5% for Nothing was a little Bill Bruford drum thing that he did, kind of making fun of the, I guess, the record company people that would take 5% and not contribute anything in his mind. And The Fish, otherwise known as Chandeliera Primatoris, was Chris Squire's amazing instrumental. And then Mood for a Day was Steve Howe's guitar contribution. But just an amazing album here. Fragile by Yes from 1972. And that really is a nice copy. I've got multiple copies of most of these. If I'm in a store and I see a copy of it and it's halfway decent and it's not high priced, I'll just get it. I'm not sure why, I just feel obligated to do so. But the next album after Fragile is considered by many to be their greatest output, and also on many polls it's voted consistently as the #1 prog album of all time, and or at least certainly in the top 2 or 3 in every poll. Court of the Crimson King sometimes is in there, but really this is Close to the Edge by Yes. Deserves to be there. This is an amazing album. They had solidified their lineup at this point and on Fragile with Rick Wakeman coming on board, playing not only the Hammond organ like Tony Kaye, but really experimenting a lot with the analog synthesizers that had come out. So the Moog synthesizer and Mellotron. So the combination of Hammond and Moog and Mellotron just really took the music to a whole nother level. So here's the inner gatefold. Roger Dean being really conservative on the front. The first appearance of the classic Yes font and logo. And just more incredible artwork on the middle. So this is a kind of a lake that ought to be draining off down the hill, but anyway. Roger Dean was a big fan of painting rocks and rock outcroppings, and this is a theme you'll see in his work again and again on Yes albums. But so this is from 1972. Just these guys were at the peak of their output, kind of composing as they went in the studio. You know, the levels of musicianship were so high, and Bill Bruford, I think, was still on here on Close to the Edge, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Bill Bruford. So apparently the guys did not get along all that well in the studio. A lot of strong personalities, a lot of fighting, but boy, the end result that they came up with was nothing short of being a masterpiece. So Close to the Edge by Yes. After this point, Bill Bruford, I think, had gotten frustrated, and he was more of a jazz drummer, and he wanted out. So he left and went off to play with King Crimson. And but they were a week away from a tour, so they brought Alan White on board, and he had to learn the entire Yes catalog in about a week or 2 weeks time. But anyway, this album was the result of that tour. Yes songs. Amazing Roger Dean cover, sort of Art Nouveau looking there, if those of you who are familiar with Art Nouveau style. This is a 3-record set, and probably the most incredible package. You just look how thick that is. It's so this is a fold out both ways. It folds out like this. That's an amazing picture. As well, it folds out here. So this is showing these spear-shaped fragments of the planet that had floated through space like dandelion seeds, are landing and taking root on this new planet. And eventually flourishing with life. Just great conceptual paintings there that Roger did. So So, oh, and here on the back cover, there are the fragments floating through space, I guess. So that's from 1973, late 1973, and the songs on Yes songs would be excerpts from Firebird's Suite that they open all their concerts with, traditionally. Siberian Katru from Close to the Edge, Heart of the Sunrise, Perpetual Change, And You and I from Close to the Edge, Mood for a Day, excerpts from Six Wives of Henry VIII, which was Rick Wakeman's solo album he had composed by that point. Roundabout, Your Move, I've Seen All Good People, Long Distance Runaround, The Fish, the entire Close to the Edge song, Yours Is No Disgrace, and Starship Trooper. So not the greatest recording in the world, but that's an amazing album. Yes songs from 1973. Okay, after this point comes an album that's sort of controversial. People either love it or they hate it. I've really taken to it. It's playing in the background now. This is from 1974. Let's see if I can get it out without the glare there. Let me take the Blake sleeve off. If any of you guys haven't seen it, check out my video. I'm kind of poking fun at the Blake sleeves. They're so darn shiny, which is a good thing, but not for making videos. But Tales from Topographic Oceans. And again, another amazing Roger Dean cover. You have your fish kind of swimming through the air down there, through your rock ruins, and the inner sleeve. Cool Yes logo there, that bluish logo. But this album was is really derided by critics as being one of the big excesses of prog music. How they got kind of self-important, and so this album is a double album set, but there's only 4 songs on it. Each side of each record is 1 song, so there's 4 songs total, 23 minutes long each, and it's pretty deep stuff. John Anderson had gotten into one of his spiritual kicks where he was off onto the just kind of bizarre earth worship type stuff, and so the lyrics are really far out on this thing, and but musically it's excellent. There's some great passages in there, some great melodies in there. It's not very accessible, like in terms of pop music. There's no, I've Seen All Good People type songs in here, but again, some excellent musicianship and excellent moments in there. Rick Wakeman was never a big fan of this album. He said his keyboard parts kind of got buried in there, so he was kind of unhappy by this point. But if you see this around a record store, pick it up. Tales from Topographic Oceans by Yes, 1974. Okay, that brings us, so again, at this point the band was struggling, maybe not getting along too well, so they split up at this point and gave some time off for each other to do some solo projects. So this is the time, 74, 75 range, where Rick Wakeman left and Patrick Moraz had joined the band. Everyone went off to do solo projects, so John Anderson did Oleus of Sunhillow, Chris Squire did Fish Out of Water, Alan White did Ramshackled, John Anderson, oh, I already mentioned him. Who else? Steve Howe did either Beginnings or the Steve Howe album. I forget which one was first. So they kind of split up, went their own ways. Patrick Moraz did The Story of I. And anyway, they did a tour together and put out this record from it. This is Yesterday's. Great illustration from Roger there. And this has, I forget which songs are played. They do, some of the numbers that they did from their first 2 albums are on that set. So we'll go ahead and stop here. I'm about almost 20 minutes into this, and but some more classic Yes albums coming up. I would say probably 6 or 7 albums of theirs are just what I consider prog classics. So coming up in the next video we'll have albums like Relayer, Going for the One, Tormato, Drama, and then on up into the poppier phase from the 80s on. But in any case, I hope you're enjoying it. I've got a few Japanese pressings that we'll look at in the next video that I picked up over in Tokyo. So thank you guys, hope you're enjoying it, and we'll catch you later.